Okay, and so it looks like we have Nate. I believe he will be on Ruby Sapphire, and Nia will be on Emerald Ruby. So Ruby Sapphire, a deck that's recently had a lot of popularity online, and just a lot of people have been playing it on Pixelborn in the ladder. So this will be a fairly familiar setting here. And then Nia is playing a more aggressive Emerald Ruby. Emerald Ruby not really a combination that you see very often, so excited to see how this matchup plays out. And it looks like players are just resolving their mulligans right now. Alright, we have a turn 1 Cursed Merfolk from Nia. And Nate's going to ink a Tamatoa to immediately get a Popsicle on board. It's a good start for the Ruby Sapphire player. This amount of aggression, though, is something that might be difficult for them to deal with as we get Cursed Merfolk questing for 2 lore immediately. It's kind of one of the weaknesses of Ruby Sapphire, being able to deal with early aggression. We do see that Nate has a Queen of Hearts, and he decides to play it, dealing with the Cursed Merfolk immediately. We see Nate inking 2 Tamatoas, which are one of Ruby Sapphire's key win conditions later on in the game. So Nate might have a difficult time finishing the game later on. All right. Okay, and Nia choosing to play yet another early character here. Now has Sir Hiss and also the Wildcat mechanic on the board. Wildcat mechanic having evasive and can banish a chosen item. This should be a really good character for this matchup. Does Nate have Stitch Rockets too? I don't believe he does. Let me check his list here. He does not have Stitch Rocket. Only has 2 Queen of Hearts, 3 Cruella de Vil for early challenging power. So he does choose to play the Cruella, which will help with the Wildcat mechanic. That will kind of slow the item destruction down. But Nia choosing to play the RLS Legacy to hopefully cause them to commit to the board early. Normally, locations are not a very good thing to play against a Ruby deck, but playing it this early on kind of protects you from a Maui rush on turn 5, and hopefully gets you going in the right direction. Nate taking a few moments here to just understand and weigh their options, choosing to ink a Fishbone Quill, and then popping one of the popsicles with Hiram Flaversham. Choosing card draw over ramp early, and looks like he's going to send 5 into the legacy here. Nia's going to gain 2 from the RLS Legacy, going up to 5. And will take some time to decide how she wants to approach this board. Flowersham is not necessarily worrisome from a board perspective, but obviously not wanting to allow the Ruby Sapphire player to get a lot of card advantages. Looks like we could be lining up for a Dragonfire on the Cruella, actually, keeping that Wildcat safe and allowing to protect the item destruction there. It will be a challenge for Nate to keep items on the board as long as Nia continues to have this Wildcat exert without really any other evasive answers here. And as we look over Nate's hand, we see a Scar, Be Prepared, Madame Medusa, Judy Hopps, McDuck Manor, and another Flaversham. Not a lot of answers for anything that Nia has going on. Lucky for Nate, Nia doesn't have too much questing power though, and is just going to choose to play a Judy Hopps and pass the turn back. Oh, I apologize. We're going to challenge the legacy for 1. And Nia is going to get an additional 2 lore here. So Nia definitely headed in the right direction. We just got a couple more health left on the RLS legacy though, and Nate looking to do away with that the following turn. Nate is currently at 5 ink, and Nia is going to choose the Be Prepared with the Ursula Deceiver, and just going to quest with the Wildcat uncontested. The question is, can Nia get to a high enough lore count before Nate gets his Scar online? Nate choosing to challenge into the RLS Legacy and finally finishing that off. And choosing to play the McDuck Manor for some additional lore per turn. McDuck Manor being one of the best cards to play against an Emerald player, just because Emerald cards in general usually don't have a strong strength to them and can rarely challenge into the manors. Not sure if Nia is running any Maui. She is not, choosing more to go on the aggressive questing route, playing cards like Jim Hawkins, Pongo, Old Rascal, Ray, and some Madame Medusas for removal. So really, at the end of the day, Nia's trying to take an aggressive line and then hopefully deal with anything that really poses too much of a threat to your questers. Nia choosing to go up to 10 lore, and Nate will decide to Madame Medusa the Cursed Merfolk so that they can keep as many cards in hand as possible, and now going up to 7 ink. And we'll quest for 3 from Nate, so quickly closing the gap here. And Nia might be running out of gas. Nia choosing to quest with the Wildcat and just pass that cannot be good for Nia's futures. Looks like Nate only has 2 cards in hand, deciding to play the Gaston to get some additional firepower here. and choosing to quest for 4. Not really concerned about Nia's board state at the moment. Nia choosing to ink and play her own Madame Medusa, removing the Judy Hops from play, hoping to slow the lore generation down, but Gaston's going to make quick work of this. The Gaston plus the McDuck Manor is going to be really difficult here. Nate gaining an additional 2 lore, and it looks like that is going to be game 1 going to Nate. So that was a fairly interesting matchup. Nate not even having to ramp up additionally to match with the speed. Nia's deck kind of running out of gas after the initial Merfolk was dealt with. I believe Nate rode down from Indiana from a couple, I think it was 2 individuals that messaged me on Twitter. It came down. So excited to see him get a win here. Ruby Sapphire is one of the toughest decks. It's just resilient, and it does have some fairly bad matchups into aggressive decks, but really handling with the rest of the meta pretty well. So exciting to see it do well here as well. We will have Nia on the play again, and it looks like we've got a Curse Merfolk and a Minnie Mouse stylish Surfer in hand, choosing to toss that away and only keep the Merfolk and maybe a Pongo here. Nate's Cruellas are going to be valuable if he can find them. I believe he only has 3 in his list. Yeah, 3 Cruellas and 2 Queen of Hearts. So very fortunate for him last game to find 1 of each. He found 2 of 5 cards in his deck, so that was really nice for him. Players resolving mulligans now. All right, and Nia starting off as always with the Curse Merfolk, trying to put some early game pressure on Nate here. Nate choosing to ink a Maui's Fishhook. Usually that's one of the cards that Ruby uses to deal with some of the evasive package, and it's kind of interesting to see Nate choose to ink that off the bat. Maybe that perhaps means he has some evasive, like a Cruella, or some other way to deal with evasive threats in his hand. Nia unfortunately doesn't have a 2-drop here, so it's going to kind of slow that down. Okay, and we see in Nate's hand that he does have yet another Fishhook, so that makes a lot of sense of why he would get rid of that immediately. Choosing to challenge him with Queen of Hearts. And he will discard the Develop Your Brain from hand. So Nate looking really good at the start of this one. Nia choosing to ink the Wildcat mechanic to play yet another mechanic. Deciding that being able to deal with items and destroy them as needed is much more important than questing early. Nate looking over his hand, weighing his options. Looks like he has 3 inkables and chooses to get rid of the other Fishhook, knowing that Nia has the Wildcat mechanic that will be able to handle it basically at will. Um, he could have held on to that and caught Nia off guard later in the game, but choosing to just go ahead and get rid of it. Uh, Nia deciding to play a Tinkerbell and then questing for 1 here. Looks like we see a Jim Hawkins in hand for Nia. That will be probably the turn that we'll see up next, and that aggression can catch Nate off guard. I know he does have Scar in his list. He does have 4 Mauis as well, so he should be able to deal with the location fairly handily. Choosing now to play the Fishborn Quill, knowing that it will probably get popped next turn by the mechanic. Needing that ramp at the moment and deciding to quest and go up to 2 here. Nia choosing to ink Minnie Mouse Surfer and play the RLS Legacy and get the free movement from Jim. Also popping the other 2 characters, the Fishborn Quill and the Queen of Hearts on the side of Nate. Nate, though, at 5 ink, and this is where he really starts to take over the game. And yeah, we're going to get a Gaston here, being able to choose 1 of 3 cards off the top of his deck. I do see he's got a Maui, a Lady Tremaine, and also a Cruella, so he's got a lot of options here. Not sure what he took. I want to say he took the Lady Tremaine. Surprised he didn't choose to take the Maui. Oh, okay, he did take the Maui. So Nate planning on taking care of the RLS Legacy next turn. Nia going to quest for 5 plus the 2 from the Legacy. It's going to put Nia at 10. And Nate deciding how he wants to approach this, knowing that everything has evasive. Wondering that he really doesn't want to cast Be Prepared at the moment because he has to deal with this RLS Legacy, but looks like he is forced to go ahead and stop the questing power. And we'll choose to reset the board. Nia going up to 12 with the Legacy. Can she get across the finish line here? Looks like 2, 3 cards still in hand. And playing the set 1 Hans. The 4-cost 3/3 that quest for 3. Hans Scheming Prince. That might be enough to kind of take this game away from Nate as he's approaching just a few cards in hand. Nia's list has quite a few top-heavy questers, so this might get her across the finish line here. Questing for 3 with Hans going to 15 as she plays a Don Carnage, Prince of Pirates, 4/4 evasive that quests for 2. Nate choosing to play Lucky Dime and then challenge, assuming he has no other play really but the Lucky Dime and just trying to get cards out of his hand for future turns. I think the only other card Nate has is a Fishbone Quill. So he's going to be looking for something actionable here off the top of the deck. Nia going up to 17. Playing an Ursula Deceiver and seeing that she's good to go. Decides to play the Flynn Rider to the quest for 2 to add additional pressure. Looks like Nate top decks the Maleficent Dragon, which will buy him 1 more turn if he can cast it. 1, 2, 3. And choosing to instead concede the game, and Nia does in fact pick up one of the 3 games with the Ruby Emerald evasive aggro deck. Just too many threats for Nate to be able to handle in that matchup. Pretty exciting to see Nia get across the finish line there with the off-meta deck against one of the strongest ones on the Pixelborn ladder. Game 3, Nate will be on the play here. While we're waiting for the players to get everything started, thanks for tuning in. Looks like we got around 40 viewers. We are in Cerberus Den in the Cincinnati, Ohio metropolitan area. Cerberus Den usually has a large event around one every set, so if you're in the area, please give them a visit. They've been very supportive of Lorcana and the competitive scene, so it's great to see them get such a good turnout here for this 2K. Looks like our players only decided to throw back a couple of cards each, and now resolving their mulligans. How do we feel about best of 2 Swiss at the challenges, and furthermore the bonus point for going 2-0? I'm in particular, I'm not necessarily a fan. I understand what they're trying to do by making every game count. I like that. However, the bonus point is kind of a tricky way. Listen, they're trying to come up with an answer for a player being on the play having such a heavy advantage, and that's their way of resolving it. Do I have a better system to solve it? Not necessarily. So I don't necessarily envy them. Getting back to the game, though, Nia starting off strong as always with the Cursed Merfolk on turn 1. Nate following up rapidly with a Cruella de Vil, which is really positioned well against Nia's deck. Cursed Merfolk is kind of similar to a Honey Badger. It really doesn't care what's on the other side as long as you've got cards in hand. It's going to quest and die freely just to try to reduce cards in hand here. More than anything, the last comment I'll make on the best of 2 Swiss and the bonus point. More than anything, I really appreciate that they're listening to player feedback. They're trying to create additional systems that will mitigate problems within the game, and that more than anything is crucial for a game to continue to thrive in the area. So that for me is really important because other TCGs will often not take a lot of player feedback, and that's problematic. So at a minimum, they're showing that they really care about what the players think and trying to resolve it. So I think that's positive going into the future. Okay, I think there's a question. Okay, Nate was just thinking about what to do, challenging into the Cursed Merfolk with a Cruella de Vil, choosing to discard 1 jump ahead, and then going to use a Fishbone Quill, putting him up to 4 ink for the following turn. Nia playing the Mr. Hiss, I believe is that Sir Hiss, sorry. Aggravating Asp, can choose to remove this Cruella from the board, and making sure that her other evasive threats are good going forward. and she does in fact choose to do that, prioritizing the safety of um, the Wildcat mechanic. Nate choosing to, knowing that his items are not long for this world, choosing to pop one of the popsicles with Flaversham to draw some cards here. And I'm fairly certain that Nia will be targeting the Fishbone Quill the following turn. Nate passing the turn back over to Nia. Looks like she's choosing to ink a Sir Hiss and play the 3/3 Hans here, and popping the Fishbone Quill to slow down the ramp of Nate. Nate already being at 5 ink, though, is going to present a challenge because now Nate's going to be able to choose to ink something if he so chooses, and then start to play some 6 body threats. And it looks like he's got a full hand of Madame Medusas and Lady Tremaines to deal with characters. Choosing to Medusa the Prince Hans to try to keep Nia at a fairly low lore count. I believe Nate is going to be able to pull this one out, just primarily because Nia is already still at a fairly low lore count late into the game. Nia plays an Ursula Deceiver, looking at Nate's hand, and unfortunately no songs to grab, and sees more bad news from the Lady Tremaine Maleficent Dragons. Yeah, we are not playing best of 2 format here today. We're playing best of 3. Nate, kind of weighing his options, decides to ink the Maleficent Dragon and play the Lucky Dime early here, primarily just for card draw from Flaversham, wanting to keep his hand fairly healthy here. Wildcat with Evasive, not really able to do. Nate's not able to challenge in there, so he will quest with the Madame Medusa and pass it back over to Nia. We have 39 attendees here today at Cerberus Den in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. It's in the Cincinnati, Ohio metropolitan area. Nia playing Array, which can definitely start to turn things in the right direction, absent an answer from Nate, but looking at Nate's hand now, we see that he did pick up the Be Prepared. He also has a Lady Tremaine and a Queen of Hearts, so it looks like he has plenty of options here. Nate questing for 2 and choosing to play the Be Prepared. Okay, Nate playing the Maui just to run into the RLS Legacy to kind of slow that progression down here. And both players really kind of top decking, but Nate's are going to be infinitely stronger, being able to draw some cards. Nia trying to preserve what health they can on this RLS Legacy, just chooses to Dragonfire the Maui. Nate starting his turn off with a developed brain, able to choose between 2 options and really decide what's best for this turn here. He has 7 remaining ink. deciding to play the Gaston. Gaston being one of the strongest cards from Sapphire. I was really surprised it took such a long time for people to start including him in Sapphire decks in set 2. Being able to replace himself with a card of your choosing is really strong. But him being uninkable made a lot of players um, have to choose what they want to do. Nia now questing for getting an additional 2 lore from the RLS Legacy and placing Flynn Rider there so he gets evasive. Alright. Nate choosing to play the Queen of Hearts and deal with the Legacy here. And then Tremaining the Flynn Rider. Looks like it's firmly in Nate's control at this point. Nia just 1 card remaining. Medusa, one of the new characters from set 3, really has the power over Lady Tremaine, can hit it directly, and Nia choosing to do so. Nate looking like he has plenty of options, Tamatoa, Grammatala, and yeah, Nate deciding it's kind of time to get this game ended. Chooses to play the Tamatoa and return Lucky Dime back to hand. Lucky Dime being the card that really allows the Ruby Sapphire deck to close the game out here. Nate choosing to quest for 4, going up to 12. And it's going to put Nia in a hard spot here. Nate showing 4, 5, 6 ink or lore next turn. Nia choosing to trade out with the Medusa and play a Pongo. Pongo, unfortunately, just not as much of a threat as Lucky Dime with Tamatoa here, and Nate is going to quickly start getting things online. Chooses to play the Lucky Dime and sing 1 jump ahead with Queen of Hearts. And then we'll quest with Tamatoa for 2, going to 14. Nia will draw and quest with Pongo, having to take the route of just trying to race here. It's really the only hope Nia has. Nate looking down at a couple of Mauis and a Grammatala, not necessarily concerned. Wants to look at 2 cards from the top of the deck. And we'll see what he chooses here. Holding a couple of Mauis, so he's ready for the Hans once he does quest. So it looks like Nia will get to 15, I believe, next turn. But I think Nate's going to be able to close the game out shortly after. Yeah, Nate questing for 2. Choosing to gain 2 more here, going to 17 and 18 with the Queen of Hearts. And unless Nia has something that will get rid of all of this, not really going to be able to take it back. Nia goes to 15 and then shakes the hand, and Nate is going to pick that one up, winning game 3. So that was a fairly close matchup. Um, Nia actually getting to 15 after a slow start is pretty impressive for the Ruby Emerald player. But Ruby Sapphire was able to get there uh, through cards that Nia's deck really didn't have a way to deal with, like McDuck Banner and Tamatoa.